Donald Trump of 2025 is a far cry from the Donald Trump of 2016. A far cry from the guy who came down the escalator and said, I'm going to deport tens of millions of illegal aliens from this country. I'm going to pull us out of foreign wars. I'm going to stop letting Israel and AIPAC boss our government around. He said he was going to throw war criminal, traitorous politicians in prison, and that America was going to work for Americans and nobody else. But guess what? Of course, we all know now, none of that was true, and absolutely none of that has happened. Mass deportation flights have been canceled. Trump has been purchased by foreign interests. And now we're on our way to full-scale war with Iran. Actually, America has already intervened. We've already gone in to shoot Iranian missiles out of the sky, and it's only going to get worse. And this isn't the first time that Trump has done this. Let's be bare naked honest. He called in strikes on Syria during his first term. He assassinated Soleimani. So there were warning signs. But nobody wanted to listen. That's just 6 million D chess. And now America and the world are going to pay the price should things continue at the rate that they're going right now. The American people do not support this. Their politicians do because they're owned and paid by Jews. But the American people, they don't support this. Jews like Mark Levin and Laura Loomer, they're working overtime trying to sell this war, but nobody's buying it, except for Trump, who's now turning on longtime allies who are daring to question he and his masters. Tucker Carlson, for example. He's been an opponent of the war with Iran for a long time, and on Friday he wrote a viral X post that has really gotten under Trump's pro-war skin, saying that, quote, the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it. Between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? Well, they would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. End quote. Tucker's correct. These people are violent. These people are evil. They want to bathe in human blood. But Tucker didn't go far enough. The divide is between humanity and the Jew. Humanity and the Shabbos Goy that works for the Jew. The divide is between people like us and people like Trump, who fired back at Tucker in a Truth Social post that reads, quote, somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. End quote. Donald Trump sounds like George Bush. He sounds like Benjamin Netanyahu. And there's such little substance to what he's saying that he's now resorted to attacking Tucker Carlson for leaving the Jewish-controlled pro-war cable news propaganda station over at Fox and going his own way.
Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you're complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to Zelensky before your bylaws?
And there it is. So now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump doesn't consider Tucker Carlson to be a legitimate journalist or a legitimate person with a legitimate opinion because he's not on cable news anymore. The only reason why Donald Trump has ever had any measurable base of support is because of independent journalists. Because of members of the independent media who have repeatedly stuck their neck out for him when nobody else would. There was a time not long ago you couldn't go to a single one of the major news networks or news publications and see anything positive about Donald Trump, and now that's been totally flipped around. They all have their hands down each other's pants because Donald Trump sold out. Because Trump is one of them, and in all likelihood, he always was. Donald Trump has totally spit in the face of the America First movement. He spit in the face of free thinkers and the true patriots and all of the noticers who propelled him to political relevance. So yeah, Tucker Carlson should go DEFCON 5 against Donald Trump because it's very obvious what's going on. Tucker is a guy who has seen the inside of the cable news beast, okay? He's seen the inside of the Beltway establishment. He's been around it for his entire life. He helped shill for the Iraq War. And he's just not willing to do it again. He's not willing to lie for Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu and for all of the disgusting blood-sucking Jews who stand to benefit from Americans being fed into this meat grinder. And we're not going to do it either. And neither are millions of real Americans who are not going to support a war with Iran, just as they refuse to support a war with Russia, because they're really America first, not just during campaign season, not just on stage at rallies, or when the cameras are rolling. And there's another really important part to this whole equation. The simple fact that for generations now, millions of Americans have always used the term America First to describe their political views. The America First movement was here long before Trump, and it'll be here after Trump. The America First movement has always been opposed to foreign entanglements that drain American blood and enrich subversive, usurious Jews. And for that reason, the America First movement is now diametrically opposed to the Trump administration. Trump doesn't seem to understand this. Maybe because this guy is just so self-absorbed that he actually thinks that he created the America First movement. In 2016, at least, that's what he told The Atlantic when they asked him if his beating of the war drums is anti-America First. Trump said, quote, "Considering that I'm the one that developed America First, and considering that that term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one that decides that." For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. End quote. Newsflash, Donald. Going to war for Israel is not America First. Taking $200 million from AIPAC is not America First. This is the absolute end of MAGA. The MAGA movement, which has been divorcing itself from the America First movement for years now, has been completely and totally shattered. It was first captured, and now it's been smashed into 6 million pieces. It's time for everyone on every end of the political spectrum to acknowledge why that is. The neocons didn't do this, okay? The swamp didn't do this. The deep state didn't do this. It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the CIA. It was the Jew. The Jew did this. Everyone knows it, and the only way forward is actually acknowledging it. One guy that's doing that is Ryan Dawson. You can find him on X at Rye Liberty. I sat down with Ryan Dawson for nearly an hour. We'll air part of that conversation now. The rest of it is available for supporters of the Stu Peters Network on Locals. Here's part of that conversation. Enjoy.
It's very George Bush Jr. We got to get them there before they get us here. Can't let the smoking gun be a mushroom cloud. Remember when Dick Cheney got on with Tim Russert and said Saddam Hussein has reconstituted his nuclear weapons program? It was based on some forged documents from Niger saying they were buying yellow cake. They weren't. It didn't matter. They invaded Iraq, killed about 1 million people there, went on to Syria. It's just a script. I mean, literally, they go, oh, it's suddenly Iran's just now getting the bomb right after you finished off Syria and, installed Al-Qaeda. Trump brags about getting rid of Baghdadi, but his protege, Giuliani, who's now running Syria, which Israel annexed a piece of, oh, that's okay. He'll go and normalize. They can lift sanctions on him, but not on Assad. Why? Because Al-Qaeda and Israel are like this. The Salafi jihadists and Jewish supremacists have always been bedfellows, and they're working against the resistance. And the real resistance is mostly Shia Muslims. There are some, non-Wahhabi Sunni part of that, but it's Yemen, it's Iran, it's Hezbollah, and it used to be Syria before that was taken out. And Netanyahu wrote a book about this, about his plan. And this nuclear rhetoric is just a facade. They know that they didn't. The only reason he had the pretense of making a deal, as we found out, is the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, were being used as spies by the Israelis. They located where the facilities were and where the nuclear scientists were, and then they blew them up or assassinated them. That's what they did. And you rewind, they killed scientists in the past. They released the Stuxnet virus in the past. That was the Israelis. They backed MEK, Mujahideen al-Khalq terrorists. They had bombing where they killed over 200 people in Soleimani's funeral. They also backed Baluchistani Jandala terrorists. So they tried all of the proxy war, Operation Ajax style tactics first, and they failed. Iran was always able to put them all down. And so what do? In the middle of negotiations, Witkoff's supposed to meet on Sunday. They attack on Friday. Even when they had a deal, they went and said, lower your enrichment to 3.6. And Iran said, okay. And they went and the Israelis said, no, it's got to be 0. Okay. Well, and also get rid of your ballistic missiles and this and this and this. They're just going to keep raising the bar to an impossible level. And eventually they just attacked before Iran got to say yes or no. They preemptively attacked and said, well, they're on the precipice of making a nuclear bomb. Netanyahu has been saying that since the 90s, at least, maybe the 80s. They're always 6 months away from the bomb. He's been saying it over and over and over again. They know it's not true. What they're really doing, their stated reason is to prevent a nuclear attack. That's why Mark Levine had a meltdown. The kvetching went to level 11. He said Iran's going to use a nuke on the United States, which would be suicide. Or Iran's going to give a nuclear bomb to Yemen, they said. Well, Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump, Netanyahu said. And it's so funny because they're talking out of both sides of their face there. Because on one hand, they're saying we have total air supremacy. We're kicking Iran's. And then on the other hand, they are begging America to intervene and help them get the job done because they don't. All the propaganda and Hasbara they say, they're not doing too well. They're running down the bunkers. Of course, only Jews are allowed in the air raid shelters. If you're a dirty goyim, if you're a worker from Thailand or an Arab Israeli, you don't get to go down. Only the chosen ones get to have the shelters, only for them. This is a state, of course, that builds Jewish-only colonies in the West Bank, just annexing land. And that's what it's really about. They want to take out Iran because Iran provides its proxy forces the ability to resist Israel's regional ambitions. And Israel's regional ambitions is annexing territory and ethnically cleansing their neighbors.
They've all said, look, this is Israel's war. We're not at war with Iran. We're not at war with Iran. We're not at war. We support our greatest ally, but we're not at war. Here's what Ted Cruz said with Tucker Carlson.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims,
know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
this is
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's like it's a big secret, Ryan. You know, they don't want us to know, but everybody knows, and then they say it out loud. Why are we playing this big secret game like little school children in the corner of the playground, you know, playing a game of telephone? Everybody knows what's going on here.
It's the same thing with Iraq. It was the same thing with Libya. It was the same thing with Syria. I mean, you literally had a bunch of Jewish neocons that set up an office within an office in the Pentagon with Doug Feith and Richard Pearl, the Office of Special Plans, that fabricated and cherry-picked information to get a war with Iraq. And again, they lied about weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons, anthrax, which they blamed. They even said that Saddam Hussein's senior officials gave anthrax to 9/11 hijackers at a meeting in Prague. And the Israelis witnessed this meeting. There was no meeting. There was no anthrax. There was none of that happened. But they lied and said it did because they wanted the U.S. to go to war with Iraq. They couldn't do it on their own. So they let Americans go in there and die and kill a bunch of civilians and set up sectarian violence. And that wasn't for oil. And that wasn't for the MIC. It was for Israeli interests. It was for a bunch of Jewish supremacists that want greater Israel, that want to annex that land and murder the Goyim around them.
Well, I think Tucker Carlson just murdered Ted Cruz's political career. Ted Cruz did it himself.
He didn't know.
I wish everybody in our Congress and Senate would sit down for a 1v1 with Tucker Carlson, because these are the types of questions that need to be asked.
Steve Witkoff, by the way.
Yeah.
He goes to Ukraine. He couldn't even name the oblast. I mean, how much attention could you have paid to that war? And you don't even know, like, Luhansk and Donetsk minimal. They don't. He couldn't say Donetsk. It's like you're next to the city. He doesn't know. He because he doesn't care. He's like, we don't care about Ukraine. It costs too much. We need everything for Israel. That's all.
How is Ukraine and this proxy war with Russia, how is that tied directly to this Iranian-Israeli conflict?
From the Israeli point of view, when they were backing Salafist jihadi Wahhabist in Syria, and they did, Al-Qaeda in Iraq became Al-Qaeda in Syria, and they branched in Aral al-Sham, al-Nusra Front, which becomes HTS, all those groups, even the FSA. There's a bunch of head-chopping lunatics. So a lot of their imams were trained in madrasas run by the CIA, but something happened. The terrorists were winning in the beginning, and they got pushed out because Russia intervened. It wasn't the Gulf Arabs that came to the rescue. It wasn't their Muslim brothers. No, they actually helped the terrorists. It was the Russians that came in because they had already defeated 2 CIA coups attempts out of using Chechen proxies. And so they weren't going to allow that corridor to connect again. So after defeating the Chechens, they went into Syria, they allied with Assad, and their air force started bombing ISIS. And Putin says, yo, like the war on terror, we need to bomb ISIS, right? They're cutting heads off, eating hearts, just shooting kids, all the manner that Islamic State did. And it was just like Iran-Contra. We publicly condemned ISIS and privately supported them, just like they did the Contras. That's what the U.S. and Israel were doing. I mean, they wanted to break Syria to disconnect the land bridge between Iran and Hezbollah. They want to break any ability to resist Israel's ethnic cleansing and annexation of land. If we could elect Thomas Massey or someone of that ilk that would stand up to AIPAC, I mean, Israel would wither on the vine within weeks without U.S. aid. They're propped up completely. They get billions and billions of dollars, which they recycle in the millions of dollars to bribe all the politicians. If you cut off that money flow, it ends because they wouldn't be able to control Congress anymore. They don't have it. They spend it as fast as they get it. That's what's ridiculous. But I don't think that there's going to be a political solution. I think there's going to be a military solution.
I think that they would be able to gin up the American hype for a war against anybody if they killed Trump in a very public and very bloody way on an international stage during some live broadcast.
That's a good point, because they keep saying Iran's going to shoot Donald Trump, which is a veiled threat. Say, we'll shoot you unless you comply.
You cut off all ties to AIPAC. You divorce this genocidal nation state completely. You cut off all communication with them. You put them under a constant surveillance and supervision. You bring our military home immediately. You militarize the northern and southern borders, and then you use the remaining personnel after they've gone back to their families for a couple of weeks to get reunited after being in holes elsewhere. Then you start sending those people from coast to coast, rounding up anybody who's here illegally, putting them on boats, on planes, in the ocean. I don't care. Get them the out of here. And then you would have the financial resources to do that because you wouldn't be spending trillions of dollars abroad. And you would have the personnel to do that. Why are we pretending like none of this is possible?
I agree with all of that, except for putting them in the ocean, which I know is hyperbole. But yeah, round them up, get them out. If you're here illegally, overstay the
I don't
visa,
mean in
whatever,
the depths of the sea. I mean on a boat somewhere and get them out of here.
In
That's
the Gulf
what I
of
meant.
America.
Yeah,
get them
We're
out.
winning.
That's what we ought to be doing. But they're not. Like, they're never going to register AIPAC under FARA or UDP or any of these other Jewish supremacist lobbies. We really need to break their stranglehold over their monopoly over mass media in Hollywood. And I don't think we can reform it. We just have to build our own media parallel to it, like what this show is, and to a degree, X, Substack, Telegram. We don't need but like 5% versus their 95%, because once you hear the truth, it resonates because it actually makes sense.
There he is, Ryan Dawson. The rest of that uncut, unfiltered, very lengthy, informative, truth-filled conversation can be found over at stewpeters.tv, along with all of the unfiltered content that we give you as a subscriber at stewpeters.tv. $9 a month, $90 a year, information like that, off the record segments, impromptu live streams, early access to documentary films like Occupied and those that are upcoming. $9 a month, $90 a year. If you already have your membership, thank you for being the most critical part of this. It's no secret that we don't have advertisers or sponsors filled with the testicular fortitude to be banging down the door to align with the Stew Peters network, especially in times like this. We do have to thank one of them that has stuck with us from the very beginning. That's Cortez Wealth Management. Just go over to CortezWM.com. Book your appointment to speak with Carlos Cortez. Call him in the office, 813-448-3446. Again, 813-448-3446. He's an independent fiduciary, folks. He's not one of these big box, heavily advertised financial advisors that has no idea where your investment portfolio is. Are you investing in Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing at times of war? Do you know? Does your financial advisor telling you what you're invested in? Probably not. CortezWM.com. Book the appointment. It costs you nothing, could save you everything. Again, CortezWM.com. Go over to CortezWM.com or just call them in the office. 813-448-3446. StuPeters.tv.
Don't let the IRS rob you. Where is your money going? Over 4 million government credit cards by federal employees were used to make 90 million transactions with no accountability. DOJ has found $4.7 trillion in federal spending that is untraceable or fraudulent. You work hard to pay your bills, and a significant portion of your money is funneled to thieves and fraudsters through the taxes you pay to the IRS. The IRS wants you to feel powerless. Be a slave that shuts up and give them your hard-earned money. But there is a way out of this slavery. Freedom Law School has been teaching Americans for over 30 years that no law requires 99% of Americans to file and pay income tax. None of their students who have stopped paying have gone to prison or had their bank account or property stolen by the IRS. Go to freedomlawschool.org today to take 7 steps to freedom from IRS deception, robbery, and slavery. For freedom, go to freedomlawschool.org today.
And for many people, their lack of energy is not related to a lack of coffee or Red Bull, but instead to a lack of hormonal production, specifically the production of IGF-1, which is your body's natural repair and energy hormone. It regulates glucose levels, it fuels your physical energy, it fuels your mental performance. It's also critical in giving you your edge back. So how can you take care of your body's IGF-1 levels, you might ask? Well, one way to do that is by supplementing with IGF-1 from our good friends over at Neutronics Labs. These guys at Neutronics Labs offer the highest quality IGF-1 supplement on the market. Just go to getigf1.com. So whether you're trying to have more energy throughout the day so that you can get more done at work and spend more time with your family, or if you're just looking to give yourself an edge in sports or on your exercise or lifting routines, well, IGF-1 from Neutronics Labs is for you. And if you're a man, you can take your total body rejuvenation a step further by stacking Man's Edge, Neutronics Labs' high-level patented testosterone booster with your IGF-1. That'll give you some pretty great results. Neutronics Labs customers are reporting increased energy, increased blood flow, muscle growth, stamina, and a whole lot more. So to learn more about IGF-1 and all of the other great products that Neutronics Labs has to offer, and to order a supply for yourself, you can just visit getigf1.com today. At checkout, by the way, use the code STEW, S-T-E-W. That'll save you a whopping 50% if you put it on auto ship. Plus, you get a buy one, get one free offer.
In 2020, the globalists showed their hand. The war on small businesses began, and the elites at Amazon, Target, and Walmart got rich while your neighborhood got crushed. Now, these same companies push woke trash, anti-family agendas, and toxic products made in China. And every time you buy from them, you are funding your own destruction. It's time to cut them off. Time to defund the woke machine and take our country back. There is a better way. A privately owned American company is producing over 450 non-toxic, high-quality products right here on U.S. soil. Cleaning supplies, makeup, vitamins, everything your family needs without the garbage. And listen to this. They even have real beef. Farm to table, no mRNA, no chemicals, no globalist trash. Just clean. American Black Angus delivered straight to your door. Obama tried to cancel this company in 2012. Why? Because they support God, family, country. They will never bow to the woke mob, and they'll never sell out to China. The question is, what are you going to do? Go to patriotcheckout.com right now. Switch your spending, starve the beast, support American manufacturing, and together we will restore the republic.
He taught you to stand tall, to question everything, to never back down. This Father's Day, Give him more than a gift. Give him the truth. With a Locals gift subscription to The Stu Peters Show, you're giving 100% uncensored, independent content. The kind Dad actually wants. 3, 6, or 12 months. His name, your message, your gift. No big tech, no filters. This year, skip the tide. Gift the truth.